Welcome back to These Things Are Written On. This Wednesday, we are going to start with 1 Corinthians 11, verse 2. He's beginning really a new topic, a new focus on order in worship. That will run for the next few chapters. Let's get into the reading. Verse 2. Now I commend you, because you remember me in everything and maintain the traditions even as I delivered them to you. But I want you to understand that the head of every man is Christ, the head of a wife is her husband, and the head of Christ is God. Every man who prays or prophesies with his head covered dishonors his head. But every wife who prays or prophesies with her head uncovered dishonors her head, since it is the same as if her head were shaven. For if a wife will not cover her head, then she should cut her hair short. But since it is disgraceful for a woman to cut off her hair or shave her head, let her cover her head. For a man ought not to cover his head, since he is the image and glory of God, but woman is the glory of man. For man was not made from woman, but woman from man. Neither was man created for woman, but woman for man. That is why a wife ought to have a symbol of authority on her head, because of the angels. Nevertheless, in the Lord, woman is not independent of man, nor man of woman. For as woman was made from man, so man is now born of woman. And all things are from God. Judge for yourself. Is it proper for a wife to pray to God with her head uncovered? Does not nature itself teach you that if a man wears long hair, it is a disgrace for him? But if a woman has long hair, it is her glory. For her hair is given to her for a covering. If anyone is inclined to be contentious, we have no such practice, nor do the churches of God. An interesting passage. As I read through this, I was wondering, where am I going to go? First thing that we need to note is this is not one of Paul's universal commands, okay? It's not one where he says, as the Lord tells me, or in every church, in every time, but he hits and addresses this one a little bit different. It doesn't mean that what he's saying has no application towards us, but that understanding of the head coverings and long hair, short hair, is one of those cultural things that we consider. Again, because he is not pointing out that this is something that has to be in every way. In this, what he's saying in this part is that women and men should conduct themselves in modesty and in sensibility. First of all, he kind of is addressing any issues with maybe gender bending in church. Dress and hair were important in the culture that they were in. And in some ways, we see that today as well, right? Guys or girls don't wear, or actually guys don't wear hats in church, but it's permissible for women to. Back then, that was the standard. But today, if you see someone with a hat on in church, we kind of wonder. Or if someone refuses to take their hat off when they pray or during the national anthem or Pledge of Allegiance, we question that. But what he's talking about in this is that we need to remember who we are, the roles that God has made us, man and woman. And yes, there is a difference between men and women. And there's a difference in the roles that God has given. We see that in Ephesians chapter 5. Women, submit to your husband. Husbands, love your wives. I'd like to remind the women that they have the easy part to do. It's the men who keep messing up. Because if men were to love their wives as Christ loved the church, women would have no problem submitting to men if we follow the biblical understanding, and that's what it is. Men are the head of the household, but men are to sacrifice and show their love in that sacrificial way that looks out for the good of their wife over their own good. And that often runs into the problem that we have. So when he's talking about this whole order of creation, that's what he's focusing upon, is that God has placed man over the woman, not to dominate, but to love and to support and to honor. So is it a sin for women to have short hair? No, unless they are rejecting their God-given role, their God-given sex. In the same way, is it a sin for man to have long hair, for men to have long hair? No, unless they're rejecting God-given sex. Our culture has changed. No longer do women wear hats around, much less to church in most places. So this is more about being proper in church, modesty. There we go. Being modest in church, being sensible in how we do things, not showing that we have authority that we don't have. Why then? Why then is this in here about having short hair, having long hair? Or when would it be a sin? Because if women have short hair or men have long hair, only if they reject God's purposes for them and how God made them man and woman. And we do see a lot of that going around in the world today, a cultural phenomena that no one would have thought we'd be where we are today more than just a couple of years ago. But when we reject who God made us to be who we want to be, we are no different than Satan, following Satan's command. Does God really want you to do this, to feel this way? So what is our response? Our response is not to judge, first of all. People who struggle with their sexual identity or sexual preference, however you want to put that, they already are feeling a lot of judgment. How are we to react? We are to react in love. That we are to gently love them and share with them the truth as we build that relationship. Why? Because we care about what God thinks about them. We care about their lives. We care about their souls. It's all that we do in love for the other person. Hope that clarified this just a little bit. We might hit a little bit more on this topic a little bit later on as well. Until then, God bless. We'll see you back here again tomorrow.